8:10 is the time. It's AM 650 KGAB Radio. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's a Friday. Open up the phones again because you know the rules. It's open phones on Friday unless I have guests. So sitting in the studio with me, a couple of people from Wyoming Liberty Group. I'm not even going to try the last names. I'll screw them up. I know it. Mandy and Evan are here in the studio with me because we're going to talk about Medicaid in the state of Wyoming. And let's, for the audience, define exactly what we're talking about. Are we talking about expansion or how to use it currently with the we still have part of Obamacare that's still working out there? I mean, 'cause it's been a problem for the state of Wyoming with one insurance company in the state. So Wyoming Liberty Group is looking at it from what angle?
Well, first, thank you for having us here this morning, Glenn. And I'm happy to introduce Evan to everybody. He's a new employee with us. He's been with us for a few months, and he has been teaching me some amazing things about Medicaid expansion and what it would really look like for the state of Wyoming if it were to happen.
Well, and let me ask you that. Would it look different for Wyoming than it would for any other state? Would we do it differently here if we did it at all?
Right. So it's very much a state-by-state basis. You know? You really can't compare how Virginia enacts Medicaid expansion, how California does it, but you know, what we're really advocating for is to not expand Medicaid. Because what Medicaid is in and of itself is it's health insurance for low-income individuals, for disabled adults, for people who really cannot afford medical insurance in and of itself. So what Medicaid expansion is that's taking Medicaid and it's expanding it to able-bodied, childless adults who are working age. So
well, but Evan, there's all the I used to do that to someone else from Wyoming Liberty Group, but Maureen, Evan, if you do that, that's millions of dollars that we would have gotten from the federal government, and apparently you just want people to die in the streets. Obviously, they're going to show up for the hospital to try to get help, and help's not going to be available. I mean, you're just a horrible person, aren't you?
Well, Glenn, you nailed me.
I did, yeah.
No, so that whole thing about the federal government paying for Medicaid expansion, that's true, and it's also not true. So they would pay for the initial part of expansion, but if we look at states like California, they're only paying for about half of Medicaid for the entire state. That's true here in Wyoming as well. They're paying for about 50% of it. So while they would pay for the initial expansion, after that, we're on our own. We have to come up with the dollars.
Is it true? I've seen in the past where with certain states, they were promised a certain amount from the federal government, but they never got the full amount that they were promised.
Right. So we've seen that, and more than that, so the Idaho Freedom Foundation did a study where they found that out of the states that have expanded Medicaid, the enrollees has doubled what they initially projected.
Okay, now that's where I was going to go next on this. So they have a certain number of people that they predict. We are going, and I'm going to pick a number. We'll be able to help like 20,000 people, just to pick a number out of thin air. But more than that, show up. Well, where did they come from, Evan?
Well, they come out of the woodwork. You know, I mean, if take, for example, myself. I am a childless, able-bodied adult. You know, if I were to get on Medicaid, then that would basically be free medical insurance for me. You know, why would I not want to do that for myself? And let's take California, for example. They predicted that around 900,000 people would take medical insurance after they expanded. And that would cost the state around $11 billion. What actually happened was they had 3.8 million people come out of the woodwork and be covered by Medicaid insurance.
Here's the trick question for Evan here. So did those 3.8 million people come from within the state, or did they come from other places as well? Because I know in Illinois, there's people who take medical vacations to Illinois from other states.
Unfortunately, that's becoming a bit of a tourist venture as well. But to my knowledge, most of those came from inside the state. They just weren't covered before.
Okay, so if I were, again, I'm paying for my own health insurance. This would be a way just to say, well, why pay for that? If I have a problem, I can just show up in the emergency room and I'm taken care of. Is that basically what you're saying?
Absolutely. And not only that, so the taxpayers are going to foot the majority of the bill. So it's at the end of the day, while you're not paying for your own insurance, your tax increases will pay for your own insurance.
All right. So for those people who are advocating for the expansion of this.
Right.
You've heard this argument, have made this argument, I've made this argument, other people have as well, but they just keep advocating for it. Why?
Well, so they want to make the emotional argument that if these people don't have Medicaid, then they will end up dying, which, while I can understand where they're coming from, the opposite is true. So the Foundation for Government Accountability did a study about Medicaid waiting lists, because the big thing is that when you expand Medicaid to able-bodied working age adults, you're really taking it away from the truly needy, the disabled, low-income individuals. So FGA did a study where they found that 22,000 Americans have died since Obamacare Medicaid expansion as a result of these Medicaid waiting lists.
For the same reasons that we see with universal health care in other countries, you end up with a waiting list somewhere and they can't come in. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk to you about after this first profit timeout is let's take a look at what this does for the hospitals, and also for the doctors as well, because there are hospitals in Wyoming that are advocating, we have to have expansion. There's even some doctors who have advocated, we have to have expansion. And yet, it doesn't turn out well for them in the end either.
Right.
We'll talk about that next. AM 650 KGAB Radio. 8:19 is the time. It's AM 650 KGAB Radio. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Sitting in the studio with me is Evan and Mandy. They're from Wyoming Liberty Group. So we're talking about Medicaid expansion here in the state of Wyoming. So there are those doctors and hospitals in Wyoming who have made a case in front of our Wyoming legislators. No, we need to expand this. But I found in the people that I know, there's also a big number who said, don't you dare. It's horrible. It's the worst idea. Why would it be bad for a hospital to take this federal government money and expand Medicaid in Wyoming?
Right. So basically speaking, the majority of doctors that are going to accept Medicaid are not going to see the same kind of dollars that they would see if they were seeing a privately insured patient.
Right.
I mean, that's, at the end of the day, it's not going to benefit them.
Yeah. Okay. So in fact, they keep getting paid less and less.
Right.
They keep getting shortchanged. Same thing, isn't that true for the hospitals then? Because a hospital will see, if we go ahead and expand, you're going to get X number of millions of dollars a year, I assume is what the hospital sees. They just see that money. But do they get reimbursed at the proper rate, or do they end up losing money?
So generally speaking, they're not going to be reimbursed at the rate that they would if they're going to see a privately insured person. Right. And that's just because Medicaid is not going to pay out nearly as well as private insurance companies are.
Okay. So what then would we do here? I assume this would be the argument. Well, I don't have to assume. I've heard the argument from the other side. So if there is somebody who has a serious problem in the state of Wyoming and they just don't have the money to pay for it,
right?
Obviously, like I said, Evan, you're just a horrible person and you just want them to die, right?
Right.
Gotcha. Nailed you. Or is there another solution?
Well, so there's a thing called direct pay, which is where you can go up to a doctor and they'll tell you exactly how much it costs, and then you pay them directly. And there's already, Idaho Freedom Foundation put out a report that said that there's already heavily subsidized insurance that's not Medicaid that people can get. If you're making $12,000 a year, and that's 25 hours a week, making $950.
They'll work with you on that.
Right, exactly. So what Idaho is finding is that they may end up having to pay both the insurance subsidies to those low-income individuals and for Medicaid expansion. So they're really getting the raw end of the deal.
Okay, but then there's also, for those people who are really in need, the number of church and civic groups out there. Right. In fact, I've helped raise money over the years for Children's Miracle Network, to name one, and St. Jude Hospital, to name another one. The Shriners is another. McDonald's House is another. There's so many different organizations out there that people donate money to, and so when someone does wind up in trouble, they're just there. So the idea that you have to have a government program set up or these people are just going to die simply just wouldn't be true.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought that up. So I found a report that said that the states that are primarily Republican, that don't have all of these welfare programs or not as many, have actually made up for it with charity or donations. So you find that in blue states, they depend more on welfare and on the government. Right. And in red states, we depend on each other, which I really like.
So if Wyoming Liberty Group is bringing this up, that's why you're here today.
Right.
So are you guys working on this then? Is there something coming up in front of the legislatures that we have to think about?
So although we've been assured that, Medicaid expansion is not going to be on the docket this year, if you look at the states around us, Idaho, Utah, Nebraska, pretty much everyone except for South Dakota has expanded Medicaid. So to think that it's not going to be a legislative battle this year, I think it's
probably still going to. Well, now, and let's look at this. Just recently, there was an article that was put out. Wyoming Public Media picked up the article, of course, ran with it, that said, well, we're surrounded by states that have expanded it.
Right.
Well, then my answer to that was, well, then we're surrounded by states that made some big mistakes.
Right.
Was my thought. Let's not, just because everybody else did it, let's not do it ourselves here. So I haven't heard of any legislation that's going to be brought up this session, but you think there would be?
I can say with confidence that I think that there's going to be legislation.
Going to ask him where that confidence comes from in just a moment. AM 650 KGAB. 8:25 is the time. It's AM 650 KGAB Radio. My name is Glenn Wood, sitting here with a couple of members of Wyoming Liberty Group. Evan and Mandy are sitting in the studio with me. So, Evan, you seem to be confident that we're going to have something. Will it be called Medicaid expansion? I mean, something that will come up in front of the legislators time around?
Well, it might not necessarily be Medicaid expansion, Glenn, but more money always comes up. With more government programs, more money is always needed. And so another subject near and dear to our hearts is transparency.
Okay.
So before we go there, we want to know where the money that we're putting in now is being spent before we start giving them more. And we all know if Medicaid expansion comes, more money comes with it.
Okay. And would it be, could we say then that we're going to have, again, not Medicaid expansion, they'll just do some other kind of program that will generate the same kind of result. Now, I know if we do the expansion through the federal government, they're promising all sorts of money, which never really seems to arrive like they said it was going to arrive, but they promise all that kind of money. What other kind of programs could they come up with then for the state of Wyoming?
Well, so, there's a whole litany of welfare programs that we could see on the horizon. And, if they see a problem or a perceived problem, they're going to try to go after that problem, and they're going to try to throw money at it. Basically, that's their solution. Okay, so would that involve starting a new program for the state of Wyoming or expanding existing programs, you think? I know I'm asking for predictions here, but right. Well, it could go either way, but the bottom line is that as soon as they see an opportunity to expand the role of the government, they're not going to knock on that. They're going to go for it.
All right, let's grab the phones real quick. This is Glenn. Who's on the phone?
This is Howard.
Yes, sir.
Got one question. I just looked at the Constitution again. I have a copy of it, and it's not the one it's not the living Constitution. But if you look at Article 1, Section 8, the only thing that gives the federal government any say on medicine is Clause 8, and that pertains to patents. Therefore, by the 10th Amendment in the Bill of Rights, it's strictly up to the states and the people, anything to do with medicine.
Well, he still refers to that old, tired thing called the Constitution anymore. So, obviously, we've just blown past that a long time ago, and we're just funding all sorts of programs here. So, all right. There are studies that come out on occasion that show that, well, again, doctors want to expand it, hospitals want. I never seem to see the study that interviews doctors and hospitals that say, don't, it's a disaster. Where are those studies?
Well, I don't want to speculate here, but it could be that they don't want to go ahead and go against their coworkers or anything like that. But I wouldn't understand why a doctor would be for Medicaid expansion. Right. Do you want less money in your wallet?
There are doctors out there who refuse to take it anymore, including in the state of Wyoming. There are several doctors, one I know that's up in Sheridan, who just won't take it anymore because it would put him out of business. So he's just gone on to I was about to say for-profit. They're all for-profit business. They've gone for a strictly cash business.
Right.
Which makes a whole lot more sense even in dealing with the insurance companies, because that's been insane as well. Going through Obamacare or just dealing with insurance companies is actually a money loser for him rather than a gain, and he can't make a living at it anymore, so he's just strictly taking cash from his. I think we're heading toward that now.
I would prefer that. I mean, you're giving money for a service. I think that makes perfect sense.
All right. Are you guys writing articles about this? You're posting about this besides this interview here?
Yeah, Evan's doing a lot of work, and in the next couple of weeks before the session kicks off, you're going to start seeing a lot more coming out. Yeah.
Where do people find that work?
We are at wyliberty.org, and swing by the office anytime. We love to see people. Okay. So come.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
AM 650 KGAB Radio. You can find us online, kgab.com.